I'm Brian Van from SportBikeTrackGear.com, and we are here today with a good friend of mine, Joe Kraft from Witchcraft Motorsports. How you doing, Joe?
Good, Brian. Good. And yourself?
I'm all right, man. I am all right. Anyone who's been to our website and looked at our representation of Ohlins suspension can clearly see we're doing it different than the other people. Ohlins suspension is one of those things, it's not really completely plug and play.
No, not at all. There's some installation required, some adjustments, some setup factors just to get the maximum out of your bike.
And we all ride different.
Yes, correct.
We've got customers that would be maybe expert racer.
Yep.
We've got customers that, hey, I'm going to ride on the street, but I want better suspension than what I've got on the bike, more tunability, more adjustability. And then, of course, we're all different shapes and sizes. What we do is we collect the information at time of purchase. We then filter it on to Joe, who then uses his knowledge and experience to make sure that we're getting all of the right spring rates and everything so that the components come ready for you to put on your motorcycle, and it begins with a nice baseline. From there, if you need further advice, you're able to reach out to us. We get you in touch with Joe, and we can even help you fine-tune that stuff via email, via the telephone, whatever it takes.
I'm always available for questions like that. We try and give people a good baseline setup, a starting point, and with further communication, we can refine your needs and get the bike to do what you need.
And that is the difference. We think for our customers that makes a lot more sense. We want to make sure that your experience with the product is everything that it should be. And the reality is you need to be a little more than just a retailer to do that. I understand suspension, but I don't understand it like he does, nor am I going to pretend to. So when I do my stuff, I just get Joe and he takes care of it for me, and then I ride it and everything is good. So let's talk about what we're going to do today.
Well, we're going to look at installing the 30mm NIX cartridge kit on the R1 forks. We've got separate compression and rebound cartridges that go in the right and the left fork leg, and we've got the left leg here to do with the compression cartridge. We
want to say thank you to Ohlins USA for partnering up with us on this. They made it a lot easier for us to get the suspension components for the bike. That was the stuff that we were going to put on the bike no matter what. I mean, because it's just
you didn't tell me that before.
I know. It's the best. I mean, that's just the way it is. In our opinion, it's the best. That's the stuff that I prefer. And regardless, help or no help, that's what was going on the motorcycle. But we do really want to say thanks to Ohlins for participating in this project. Real quickly, cartridge kit, Joe.
Yes.
Rate the difficulty. We got a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being don't even try and do it yourself. 1 being I'm putting out a fender eliminator kit.
Well, for one thing, it depends on the bike. Coincidentally, on the R1 forks, it's pretty simple. Some special tools to get the old cartridge out, get the new cartridge in, check the oil height, adjust it to the recommended Ohlins settings, and you're probably good to go. The only problem you might have is sometimes it doesn't quite disassemble as we hope, where the cartridge comes out as a unit, and you may need some further special tools just to address those issues. But
rough cost on said special tools if you get stuck?
I think the one tool that pulls the cartridge body out is like 175, 180 bucks or something like that. So just that one. A couple of the tubes that you use to get the cartridge out are 110, something like that. So you're looking at maybe 400 or 500 bucks total when you're all done, just to have everything you need so that you don't have to MacGyver some things and make it up as you go, you know.
And remember, we do offer installation service through Joe, right? The stuff comes to us. Joe's really local to us. He comes over, picks it up, services it, brings it back to us. We get it packaged up and get it out to you. So if you want a cartridge kit, but you don't want to attempt it yourself, don't worry about it. The installation charge is actually very fair, in my opinion. Very fair. Just send it in. We'll get you taken care of.
So as per Ohlins instructions, the first thing you do is unscrew the fork cap. And you get access to the spring preload tube and the rest of the cap, and then we gotta move over to our other vise over here and get the spring compressor on and get the top of the fork off. So do something like that. Oops, we're a little high. We had somebody else's forks on there earlier, so hold on to that for me, will you? Thanks.
This is as close as I'm going to get to putting my own fork cartridge kit in right now. I'm actually just going to be holding the fork in the fork spring compressor.
Sorry, I was working on something else last night. Didn't quite leave this setup. This is one of the really handy tools, the fork spring compressor, just to get the thing apart. Otherwise, you're struggling with this and you're calling a couple buddies over, and it can get ugly doing that. So.
And that fork spring compressor is actually a real common unit. That's a Race Tech unit. We have that on the site, and that is a real popular tool. From the factory, most of the bikes, especially if you're a little heavier, they're sprung pretty light. And it's very common that you're going to need to spring up. And there's a lot of guys that are installing their own fork springs. It's very common.
First we get the cap off and the rebound adjuster tube. Tube. And we gotta dump the oil out and catch some parts as it all goes out. Spring, some washers. Pump the cartridge a little bit to get all the oil out of it. And we're lucky with this one that this is a new bike, because that makes it a whole lot easier to work with. The oil's nice and clean. Everything inside is clean. We don't have to worry about the dirt and grime that usually accumulates in the bottom of the fork and all the oil that's in there.
Which can be pretty epic when
Yes.
somebody lets it go for a few seasons.
You can ask Aubrey about that.
Oh, hers was interesting?
Yes.
Nice.
Interesting to say the least. So. One of the Ohlins tools to get the stock cartridge out.
So how's this one coming apart?
This one's very easy. If we got the whole thing here, and we do,
Nice.
that's nice.
Because you mentioned sometimes that cap can come off the top
Right.
of this.
The hard part is when these two separate in the fork tube and this is left down in the bottom. That's when you got to unscrew the fork tube out of the bottom of the fork and grab that with another tool, even, which another costly item to have in the shop. So
Probably a little heat too, I'm
a
guessing.
little heat helps, yes, just to loosen up the Loctite that's on it. But checking the inside of this, obviously it's new and nice and clean down in there. I think I will rinse it out a little bit though.
Yeah, you definitely don't want any debris in there, that's
No.
for sure.
And we want the Ohlins cartridge, when it goes in with a little Loctite, to have a nice clean set of threads to bite onto. That looks good. We might even use a little air to clean it out down there. We got the Ohlins 30mm cartridge kit out, ready to install. We're going to remove the fork cap and a preload spacer. And then we have to disassemble the cartridge tube from the seal head, because we install the cartridge tube separately. This you want to be careful with. There's our magical piston and all its little shims. Then back over here we need to put a little Loctite on this.
that coming loose.
No, this we need to stay in there. And I also like to carefully put this down into the fork tube. So there'll be times when I'll take this out and just try and slide this down in there so we don't drop it in and bang up the threads on the bottom. Get it centered in there. And then another little odd tool you need is a big 17mm Allen socket. That's got to go right down inside there. Thread that into the bottom of the fork tube. And we torque that in. All right, so with that, of course, when things don't go as planned, and you need to help them out a little bit.
It's no fun when things go as planned.
Yeah. Let's keep it interesting, right?
Exactly.
All right, so we got the fork tube tightened into the bottom of the fork. And now we put in roughly half a liter of Ohlins 1309 fork fluid. And then we will install the cartridge. All this stuff over here. This we apply some red grease onto the threads of the cartridge tube because we want this torqued in, but we don't want this so that it's not removable. For any future tuning, you may want to change the shims on the piston there. Carefully put this in. And we're going to torque that with our other special Ohlins tool.
Are all the 30mm kits set up like that, where it's rebound one side, compression the other side, or is that just because that is the way the fork was designed on this R1?
No, they're all that way. The NIX 30mm kits from Ohlins are all this like that. The older 25mm kits had both compression and rebound in each fork leg. The 30mm kits are rebound in the right leg and compression in the left. Torque that in there.
You know, just off the cuff, that could be a major tuning advantage for, say, like top teams that are actually, say, they want to make a change to the compression stack. You only got to pull one side apart.
That's correct. That's correct. And I would imagine that's part of the reason why they engineered it like that. And our next step is to bleed that piston. So we loosely attach the fork cap. Bring the tube up to it and tighten that by hand. We just want to stroke this up and down a few times, 10 or 15 times, just to get the air out of the piston, out of the cylinder. And usually they bleed pretty easy because you put the fluid in there first and the piston goes in on top of it. It's usually not an issue, and it isn't this time either. You can tell if this doesn't bleed that it'll jump up and down.
They're like dead spots,
erratically.
right?
Yeah.
No resistance.
Yeah. But this one's good. After you get it bled, we need to set the oil height. A lot of variation in the oil height depending on the tuner you work with, the bike you're working on, and the application you have. But we will use the stock Ohlins recommended height which was 140 millimeters. So you get your little turkey baster out and you set the height at 140 millimeters and you're good to go.
And that's a pretty common tool there. That's a Motion
Yeah.
Pro.
Motion Pro
Yeah.
fork Oil Hight gauge. There we are.
You know, the real money for the tools is going to be in all the specific Ohlins tools. And then you look at things like what Joe has on the floor here. He took an old vise, put soft jaws in it, fastened it to an old automotive rim. But I mean, you need to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
It needs to be heavy on the floor.
That's right. It's got to be stable so that nothing falls over, and it gives you a good work platform to start with. After that, we need to put in the fork preload tube, spring support, and the spring. We're running 1/0 springs on this installation. A good rate for racing at Brian's weight.
Do we have to talk about that, really? I mean, I know I've put on a couple of pounds. But
No, that's a good middle of the road rate. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
that's the same rate that I run on my 600s, too. I had good success with the 1.0s on the 600 front and rear, so that was another reason we went with this. And Joe's the one who put those on for me, obviously, so. And the cool part is, as we go throughout the year, you know, I have the option too, there'll be times when Joe will be at the track and I can take advantage of that, which will be nice. And other times, if I need to make a phone call and say, hey, this is what I'm feeling, you know, he can help walk me through that a little bit. And then if we need to make changes when I get back, you know, I can get the parts off the bike and if we need to, make adjustments to them.
yep. And one of the beauties of the Ohlins kit is the ease of replacing the springs are right on top there. You don't have to have a spring compressor to get them out. Just got to be able to pull up on that cartridge tube and stick a wrench in there. And then you're good to go.
The spring rate's pretty important. I mean, that has a lot to do
Oh yeah.
with how that bike's going to perform.
Yeah, and there's a lot of debate on that too. You know, again, it depends on the tuner you work with. Some guys like them really stiff. Some guys like them softer. A rider preference certainly for more feel in the back when you're on the gas, accelerating out of a corner. Okay, good there. Just about done. Edit that right.
No, we're going to leave that in.
Not too tight on the cap and you're all good to go.
That is something we may need to get in there and make a change, so there's
Yeah.
no need to reef that
Yeah.
cap down.
Don't need a lot of torque on that. So that's pretty much how the installation goes, and we get a final setting recommendation from the Ohlins installation guide on where to set the compression, rebound damping, and the spring preload. And then we'll get to put them back on the bike and go ride.
Go ride, man, am I looking forward to that. And as usual, I've left it to the absolute last minute because I am leaving next Thursday night. And Ironically, it is 1 week away from now, and I have a motorcycle that's sitting there in a million pieces with a ton of parts to put on the bike before we go anywhere. So, just to recap, the things that I really want to hit on, okay, is you see that it takes a lot to do this. It takes a lot of tools, it takes a lot of experience, and there's a lot of little things that if you don't do them right, all the money you spend on the cartridge kit, you're just not going to receive the benefit from it.
That's true. I mean, it's a fairly simple installation, but you need a few specialized tools, and certainly there are a few techniques and fluids and greases to be used to maximize the whole performance of the cartridge. So it's a good idea to have somebody who knows what they're doing work with it at least. So
So we're talking what? What's the install price?
$180 for me to install it in your forks. That's about it.
And that's really affordable. I mean, you look at, like we talked about, let's say you get into a little trouble, there's like one tool that's $160. I mean, we counted it up, it's well over $1,000 for the tools to do the service. And some of that is worst case scenario, but then you have to have a vise on the floor. I mean, imagine if you use the vise up here. I mean, you'd have to stand on top of the stool to service the fork. So there's a number of good reasons to send it in. And what we really want to encourage you all to do, if you're interested in something like this, or if you're interested in a valve kit for the front forks, send this stuff in. His prices are super reasonable. He's got a ton of experience. And the best part is you've got like a real guy who you can actually get a hold of if you're having issues with setup. He's going to help you.
And I think that's really important down the road, even if you don't send them to me, to use another tuner that when you get to the track and something's not working right and you need some advice, you can give somebody a call that you've already dealt with, and they can help you make some adjustments, get you going in the right direction. So.
And that's it. That is our 30mm Ohlins cartridge kit install in our 2013 STG project bike.